So, Arunav, we've got a lot to talk about today, but before we get into our discussion, maybe you can provide our audience just a bit of background on Cyient.
So thanks, Sean. Cyient is a global engineering and technology services firm broadly focused on industries like connectivity, transportation, mining, energy, and utilities. It's a firm which has been at the core of engineering for the last 30 years with over 16,000 employees worldwide and centers out of India, North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific.
So, as we ground our conversation into telecoms, there's a lot of aspirations here at Mobile World Congress, and they all have to do with AI. But there's also some realities that we need to address. What are your observations here?
See, look, one thing which obviously the industry has been witnessing and seeing for the last 2 years for sure is a lot of AI hype. Now, I think in the last 12 to 18 months, the industry really has moved beyond that. I think from the AI first and AI hype narratives, it is more around what meaningful problems are we getting to solve as part of the journey. At Cyient, we have really taken a very conscious position not to go with the hype, but embed AI at the core of the problems that we want to solve for the industry. And that's where our position to the street and to the market is around embracing intelligence at the core of the business problems that we are trying to solve for our customers. And that applies for the telecommunications ecosystem as well. While autonomous networks is the buzzword, we are looking at it in a 3-layer approach. And I'll be happy to talk about that.
Yeah, as operators look to embrace intelligence, there's a lot of nuance, right? You mentioned the hype around AI, but the reality is that there's a lot of domains and subdomains that need attention before AI can be applied in a meaningful way. But what is the operational reality here? How do you embrace intelligence?
That's true. See, and that's pretty much the trillion-dollar question that everybody is trying to solve. There are 3 broad aspects which you have to fundamentally address. Are you engineering the ecosystem in a way that it is tuned for disruption and the change that it requires? What kind of technology layer and intervention that you're trying to bring on top of it, which allows the operational metrics to be streamlined? And the third one is really around how do you drive the business outcomes on top of that? So I think it's a combination of all of that coming together. And from a Cyient lens, what we have done is in December, we came up with our positioning on this, which is Intelligent Network Modernization. And what we have done is we have broken down the problem statement into 3 fundamental building blocks, which allows us to hit all of those 3 parameters. The core is how do you create intelligent network engineering, so where we are able to address the entire value chain. How do you then build the operational layer or the technology layer, which is the autonomous network modernization framework. And then on top of that, how do you bring the cognitive layer ecosystem together, which allows us to hit the business metrics that really the customers are looking for as part of the autonomous networks ecosystem.
So as operators go through this journey towards increasing degrees of autonomy, AI is obviously at the center of that. But in order to use AI effectively, your engineering teams need to trust AI. They need to think about it reliably. So how do you segue trust and reliability into the business outcome? How do you connect the dots there?
See, look, that's where 3 things that we have been able to differentiate ourselves. One is the 30 plus years of experience of having worked with telcos at scale and at their problems, core of their problems. Second is we have continuously disrupted ourselves in the play by bringing a technology intervention which allows us to add greater value back to the customer. And the third layer is really how we are able to package all of this for our top customers, which are pretty much the top tier 1, tier 2 telcos across the globe. Now, if I have to peel the layer, what does it mean really? We are a company which has, fundamentally driven immense value on the fiber side of the business, the wireless side of the business, where we are talking about RAN deployments, private wireless deployments. Now, if you look at the fiber side, we have been able to do over 60 million home passes. We have the knowledge, we have the understanding of what it takes to get it done. And similarly, on the wireless side, we have turned up over 30,000 sites. We have optimized over 60,000 sites worldwide for our customers. When we talk at scale, we are talking about churning out over 400 to 500 sites a month for our customers across the globe. At one point, interesting data point is we have about 2.5 billion customers worldwide who are actually, on a network which has been engineered in some shape or form by Cyient. So we understand the entire value chain. And then when you start breaking the layer, which is on the intelligent network engineering play, how are we fundamentally bringing value to, say, the plan and design build cycle? How are we then bringing a AI intervention on the optimization cycle? And we are stitching the entire layer with our differentiation and a differentiated platform, which is known as Vismon. We have got building blocks around Vismon Planner, which allows us to plan seamlessly. It's an automated AI-driven platform. We are able to design it at a fundamental level, which is more effective, and then really take it to the next level where we are now creating an ecosystem for autonomous networks, where we are vendor agnostic, creating an interoperability ecosystem for our partners to come for working with different vendors to bring a solution on top. We have our own very well-defined autonomous network consulting play over there. Then we have a suite of R apps and X apps which are working on top of the SMOs which are there. And then we really are taking it to the next level of operational efficiency that we can drive, make it more cognitive through three things. One is really our domain experience. Second is our vendor agnostic semantics that we have the knowledge base around. And third is we have created our own LLM, which is able to create efficiency in the operations itself for the telcos.
So when you look at what operators are doing, whether that's with fiber, whether with its SMO or R apps, X apps, they're spending a lot of money. They are gaining efficiencies, but how do they turn those internal facing efficiencies into something that their customers value and would be willing to pay for? What's the monetization route?
I think this has been a conscious journey. Like you look at the telcos across the globe, if you look at their problem statements, they are wanting to build out fiber across the globe. They're wanting to go, build that out. Pretty much these are the top three priorities for the customers. Second, they are trying to drive operational efficiency. So they are looking to reduce cost rather rapidly. For the very first time in this industry, we are also seeing that people really are saying that, okay, we have invested a lot on 5G. Can we do more on monetization, which I think we still are about 30 to 40% into it. We really haven't monetized 100% of what 5G really was designed to offer. And I think that journey is on. Where we are able to see some of those things, I think the adoption of open architectures is definitely opening up the ecosystem for our customers. There is a more focused play around how do we create monetization slices for enterprises, for consumers, which makes this more effective. And at the end of the day, it's about rendering services in a world which is moving towards, rather very quickly moving towards AI adoption.
Yeah, there's so many conversations out in the FIRA around 6G, but there's also a lot of really practical applications of AI to 5G. And it just strikes me that there's a lot of innovation left with 5G. There's still a lot of opportunity to evolve that. So as you engage with your customers, what do you think Cyient brings to the table that really differentiates you in the space and helps, maximize time to value?
Yeah. So that's again a question which everybody's trying to solve. What are those top use cases or priorities for the telcos that they want to address? Look, we are on the CXO Council with the leading telcos in the world. We have curated our playbook of about 20 to 25 use cases which are meaningful. But then if I have to just, take a stab at giving you, say, the top 4 or 5, I would say clearly configuration management and configuration drift management is something which is very important. And hence we have come with a end-to-end 3-layer view of how do we manage that, engineering it at the core, how do we automate by bringing in R apps which can tune the network to that efficiency, and then how do we take it to the operational layer. So that is one. Similarly, there is a heavy focus on network assurance. Of course, there's a common word, but how do you make it real is something very important, because you really have to hit the operational metrics around, anomaly detection, and how do you really create the network which is more adaptive to a changing scenario. Uh, Third area, obviously, energy savings is something which is very big. How do you manage it dynamically when there is a operational switchover, when there is not enough load going to a certain site? How do you manage it seamlessly and turn it off and shift the traffic real time to the other? So I think things like these are very important. While these sound very obvious, but look, this is an industry which also has to move to solve some of these problems in a meaningful way. So we are working in all of those things. But yes, we do have a very structured playbook that we are taking to our customers. We have also launched our guidebook, which is Autonomous Network L4 guidebook. With some telcos, we are working on their journey to transition from L2.5 to L3. In some cases, we are transitioning to the journey of L4. How do we map that out? It's going to be a ecosystem play. Of course, we are working with the partners, the OEMs in this case, and we are also trying to stitch a ecosystem of partners who really are working in solving some of these problems in a big way. And the glue for us here is again Vismon, which we are positioning it across the ecosystem. So that's the reason we call it Intelligent Network Modernization, powered by Vismon AI.
Yeah, see, your energy efficiency example, and there's so much progress being made in that space. There are operators that are at L4 using our apps to just drive down cost. And it's very meaningful when you look at how much of the operational budget goes into powering the RAN. So you've given us some really practical, actionable, near-term advice here. But if you had one thing to leave telecom leaders with, what would it be, Arunav?
No, I think the most important thing is, how do we make it practical? How do we make it realistic? We move away from the hype. I think the adoption is it's here. It's not in far in the future. It's about making those right choices in terms of the technology decisions that the telcos make. It's about the kind of partner ecosystem they bring together, the kind of use cases, and they have to prioritize the use cases. You can't solve all the problems in one go. Of course, there is disruption happening at a pace which is beyond the usual norm in this industry that we are used to. So I think we have to keep a pace with all of that, yet solve the business outcomes at the core of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise out there, so I really appreciate you helping us focus in on the signal.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.